This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I am your host, John Ruffman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. I said some time ago that the ceasefire with Iran was a fiction. Donald Trump now confirms it's over. Not only that, he refers to the Iranian leadership as scum, and American military action against Iran is now in full force. There is no doubt in my mind that what Donald Trump has done in this foreign policy fiasco is one of the greatest tragedies in the history of American foreign policy. And I credit Donald Trump with this whole business. And let it be clear, he's now attacking Spain because Spain will not cooperate in his war against Iran. It's astounding. It's horrifying. And let me be even clearer. When it comes to NATO, the president is still blasting NATO, talking about reducing our troop presence in Europe. This president is out of control, and there needs to be a Congress that will step in. Now, some of you will say, John, you're overreacting. No, I'm not. I'm very clear. I'm very precise. I know exactly what I'm saying. We know that in foreign policy, a president is king. But what do you do when the king is messing up? What do you do when a president gives an order? And look what happens. This is a disaster of the first order. Now, let me be clear. When the president calls the Iranian leadership scum, and remember, he was talking about there being wonderful people he was dealing with when it came to Iran, we suggested strongly that there was no change in the Iranian leadership. We may have eliminated certain leaders, but the leadership philosophy remained intact. And for Donald Trump to call the very people he's negotiating with scum gives you an indication of the ineptness of this president. Now, I'm not saying this lightly. When we have a war with our European allies, with NATO, when the president can attack Spain and suggest he's cutting off all trade with Spain, when a president of the United States can act unilaterally on these matters and is clearly not rational, we've got a problem. And it's only Congress that can step up and do something about it. Now, I'm suggesting in the strongest possible terms this morning that even those of you who support Donald Trump should understand the danger that we face. So I am being clear, I'm being precise, and the only answer is for Congress to stand up and assert itself. That's what has to happen. And of course, you know, the Republicans in Congress, in the Senate and in the House, are reluctant to cross Donald Trump because he says, if you cross me, I will cross you off my list. There will be primary challenges. And so it's almost a comedy of errors, except it's not a comedy, and the errors are being made by the President of the United States and by the Republicans in Congress who are complicit. What does this mean for America? What does this mean for our foreign policy? What does it mean when, at a time when Ukraine is under attack, when the president is talking about reducing our presence in Europe? What does it mean? What does it say about the leadership being offered in this country? Now, I am never discouraged about the future of America, and I am never discouraged about the possibilities in elections. But I want to suggest to you just as strongly that the President of the United States is clearly implying that he intends to tamper with the election process. And that, my friends, would be an unmitigated horror for those of us who believe in the American democratic system. That leads me to the question of Mitch McConnell. I don't know the status of Mitch McConnell's health, but I know that the Republicans in Kentucky changed the law so that if Mitch McConnell were to pass away, then we know that instead of the governor appointing a fill-in senator, which is the normal process, Kentucky has changed its law. There would have to be an election. And I want to remind you that Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, is a Democrat. And it is almost certain that if Mitch McConnell were to vacate the seat for any reason, that the Republicans are trying to ensure the balance in the United States Senate and will not allow Andy Beshear, the governor, to do his constitutional duty and to nominate a new senator, actually to appoint a new senator. So there's a lot riding on what's happening in the state of Kentucky, and a lot riding on what happens with Mitch McConnell. I don't know the answers, but I want to raise all these questions because when you talk about rigging elections and rigging control of the Senate, all you have to do is look at what's happening in Kentucky. And that leads me to the state of Maine. Now, I declined yesterday to name the Democrat who is the nominee because I find him so despicable on so many levels. And let me be clear, he must leave the race. By the way, did you hear the latest? He's trying to dictate who would succeed him in the race. Can you believe it? The audacity of what he's suggesting. Thank God that key Democrats in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives who have supported him are now withdrawing their support. The charges of rape and, my friends, the charges of abuse are clear and present and consistent. And I don't know whether he's guilty or not of any of the charges, but I do know that when you have a number of people come forward and suggest there is a real issue, well, there must be a real issue. And let me point out to you that this man, nominated by the Democratic Party in the state of Maine, holds perhaps the balance of power in terms of Democrats in the United States Senate and who will control the Senate come next January. I'm pointing this out to you now because I believe that he, who will go unnamed, will have to withdraw. I believe the state Democratic Party in Maine will then select a new candidate to run. Now, some say it's not democratic. Why? Because there is no process by which the Democrats in Maine will choose their candidate. There'll be a process. There'll be a state convention or a gathering of Democrats where a candidate will be named. And although some say that's undemocratic, we have to go the primary route, let me assure you that even though I would like to see a full competitive primary, there isn't time. We have an election coming in November, and the Democrats have to come up with a viable nominee if, in fact, Susan Collins is to be defeated. These are all serious questions. And let me point out to you, it is not only Maine, it is Kentucky, and it is the president suggesting he is planning to tamper with the American elections, all of that and more. But the bottom line here is that it all comes down to Donald Trump. And that is the reason why I would suggest it is not that I suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. Quite the contrary. I am a political analyst. My job is to know what Donald Trump is doing, how he's doing it, because he's the president of the United States. That has been my position with every president since I became conscious of American politics. So this is not derangement syndrome. This is clearly a reality that Donald Trump is unfit to be president of the United States. And some of you are going to ask me, how can you make such an audacious statement? And the answer is, take a look at the record. Take a look at what he says. Take a look at what he does. I come back to the question of Iran because it is a serious issue. The president, who proclaimed a ceasefire which no longer works by his own words, a president who said, I'm getting along with the Iranian leadership, they're new people, everything will work. And of course, the simple truth is he now calls them scum. This, my friends, is the reality of the President of the United States. And in a normal time, Congress would have acted. But this is not a normal time. And the only way to restore sanity is for the Democrats to take control of the Senate and the House. I know it's a long shot in the Senate, and perhaps in the House there will be issues as well. But there is no alternative here if we are to hold on to democracy. Now, I want to say a word about the Democratic Party. As many of you know, I started life as a Republican, and I did not leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left me. When the liberal wing of the Republican Party, the wing represented by Dwight Eisenhower, by Gerald Ford, by, yes, Richard Nixon, when that wing of the party died, well, so I left the Republican Party and became a Democrat, feeling very comfortable in the party of Scoop Jackson and Hubert Humphrey and Harry Truman and Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy. I felt at home, even if I had my problems with the Democrats. But let me assure you of one thing. I have a big problem with the Democrats today. These so-called progressive Democrats and the rise, and I want to be very clear about this, of anti-Israel and, yes, worse, Jew hatred in the Democratic Party is something that should concern all who are registered Democrats. Now, I am a registered Democrat. I am active in Democratic politics. I have very strong feelings about the future of the Democratic Party. But when I hear and see statements like the ones made by Mayor Mondani in New York and statements made by Bernie Sanders, who is a member of the United States Senate, though not a Democrat, by the way, he's an independent who votes or caucuses with the Democrats in the Senate. When I hear the kinds of statements coming from some Democrats, I am profoundly disturbed. I do not want to be a person of concern without a party. And it's clear there is no room for me in the Republican Party of Donald Trump. And it is also clear that there is no room for someone like me in the Democratic Party of Mondami in New York, and of course, Bernie Sanders, and, well, the normal crew now of so-called progressive Democrats. They are not progressive, they are retrogressive. And it is of deep concern to those of us who want to see a two-party system that is viable in this country. Now, I've had a number of you ask me, well, John, if you're upset with the Democrats and you're upset with the Republicans, would you vote for a third party? And the answer is no, because there is no viable third party in this country. And there has not been a viable third party in this country since the Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln for president in 1860. The last time a third party was elected to the presidency or even controlled the Senate and the House was the Republican Party at its beginning. What does that mean? It means that we now have an obligation to begin the process of rebuilding the political system in this country without Trump, without Bernie Sanders, without the old guard, if you will, who have created such havoc in the American political system. Now, I'm very concerned about November. I've talked to you on a number of occasions about what could happen in the November election. I want to repeat my concerns and let you know that on this podcast, I will be alert to what this president is doing, whether he does it nationally or state by state. We are going to call him out. And let's hope that this country can mobilize itself to understand the problems that we face. This is not an idle hope on my part. We have seen the United States in crisis before, and we've always pulled through. but we've always had effective leaders to help us. And I believe that is the key. A new generation of leaders in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party who will make our political system secure. Otherwise, my friends, we are going to continue to go from crisis to crisis. And that would be a disaster, not only for America, but for the world. I want you to stop and think about it, because these are perilous times. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify, and click any of the links in the show notes to connect with me on social media. I do want to know what you think. Today is Wednesday. Friday, your question and answers will come in. I can't wait. And please remember to share this episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which of course is our goal. This show has been getting so much positive attention that we're excited to bring on the advertising support that we have, and new advertisers are interested as well. This, of course, will help us create more opportunities for Around the Political World with John Rothman. I want to say a special word of thanks to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. We do our best every single day to provide you with our observations, our thoughts, and hopefully making a difference, a better world, because that's what we all want. I am John Rothman. You are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman. Heaven only knows where we'll be tomorrow, but I know where I'll be, right here with you on this podcast. See you then.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.